Hello, my name is Rich Lieberman. I live in the Lee Hill District. As you're aware, I attend most of these meetings, but I've only stood up here one time, and that's because I was raised to only speak if I have something to say. I talk with a lot of residents of Spotsylvania. We talk about meetings, excuse me, such as the one we're in now. People have two main concerns. The first is people are now physically afraid to attend these meetings. The behavior by some of the speakers is flat out terrifying to them. The second thing people say is they need to be careful even watching the videos online because they don't want their children to walk in to hear what's being said at these meetings. I myself have received a physical threat just for being in the audience last month. To make matters even worse, there's now a cartoon that some wannabe tough guy made of myself and several other community leaders being shot because we attend these meetings. My wife is concerned for my safety for the simple act of being here tonight. We need to stand up to these bullies. They set a horrible example to our children. Frequently, our children are in here listening to these people. I think people forget the purpose of these meetings. When you boil everything down, it's what's best for the kids of Spotsylvania County. Frequently, if we yell, we scream, we push an agenda, people mentally tune out what you're trying to say. I understand it's not a problem isolated to our meetings. It happens in other meetings here in the county and across our nation. Our county, our Commonwealth, and our country are hurting. It's time we heal these divides. Every speaker deserves to speak and has something to contribute to benefit our kids. I'd simply ask that all speakers in the future conduct themselves as if their school-age child or grandchild was watching. Thank you.
Because I think it's important that we start recognizing that when people come in here for public comment, I know we can't police them. I know that because they're allowed to speak and let us know their perspective. But I think in a certain manner, we should have at least some say in how they approach us as elected officials on this board. So what I'm proposing is that we as a board, if we want to, again, it's the majority board, if we want to come up with something to allow, to kind of put some parameters in place on how the public approaches us. I just think it's important. We have to start somewhere because I'm seeing this year after year, and I'm not sure are we okay with that? It sounds like if we keep doing the same thing over and over, it's going to happen again. So I just think we just need to put some parameters in place in how we are approached by the public, and not only just the public, but also as a board as a whole, and how we deal with each other. That's just my proposal, that we come up with something as a board and how we can deal with this. Maybe that's something we talk about in August. I mean, I'm willing to wait till August to talk about it at our meeting or our workshop, because I know we have some various topics that we're going to discuss. But that's just my comment. That's my opinion about how we should approach this situation.
Mr. Braswell.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I appreciate the Vice Chair's concern, and it's a touchy issue because a person's expression is a form of speech. And there's going to come times when people approach us and their mannerisms are quite disrespectful. But they have a right to express themselves, whether we care for it or not. And I know as a service member, when I served and I swore to defend the Constitution of the United States, I did that knowing that there's going to be times that I was standing up for people that I absolutely loathed, could not stand, or did not disrespect. I mean, I did not respect. But they're American citizens. They have a right to speak and speak their mind. And so long as they're not, I would assume, threatening us in terms of physically threatening us, then they should have a right to say what's on their mind. And I know that there's times, I can tell you a lot of times when people have came up and said things I didn't care for, but that's just their right. And I'll always support and defend their right to speak their mind, whether I appreciate their speech or not. It's what we do. And but I do appreciate where you're coming from. I really do. I appreciate where you're coming from because sometimes you get attacked unfairly, or people make up things about you. But we just have to accept that and understand that we're serving the greater good. So I appreciate what you're saying, Madam Vice Chair. I have a lot of empathy for what you're saying, but I would opt to make sure that people have a right to speak, whether we like it or not.
And I agree, Mr. Brassford, Madam Chair, if I could, please. And one of the things I studied was public participation. So I have no qualms about people coming up here speaking in whatever manner they choose. However, it is about the decorum, making sure that they have some parameters in place in how they present themselves in front of us. Like, I'm not even going to go into the situation, but just letting them know that, hey, if it gets too disruptive, we may have to move you because that's interrupting our business. So that's all I'm talking about. I want people to speak, and I think it's important that we hear from them. But there's a certain manner that you should be able to approach that podium and talk with us. And that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. In fact, just now at this board meeting, we had someone play the song "Nuck As You Buck." That was the song that my son was murdered on. This person made an attempt to try to cause an emotion in me based off of a song that my son was murdered to. I know it was intentional. I understood what that person's intent was. It had the purpose of playing that song was for no other purpose other than to antagonize me. Well, it didn't work. I serve a God that's greater than he is, and I'm not worried about it. I also serve a country that says that even though he did that, as long as he stays back behind that counter, he can say what he wants to. His 5 minutes will be up, and then he'll have to turn around and go out. So I know what you're saying. I concur with you that sometimes it's distasteful, especially when someone will attack a person's son who's murdered that's been dead. But there's people like that, and we have to support and defend their right to speak.